Hey everyone, Dr. Kim here. Um, Today I want to talk about uh, a question that I get a lot when I speak live, right? So oftentimes after I do a presentation, especially if it's on burnout or horizontal violence or something like that, I get questions from nurses about when do I know that it's time to leave an organization? When do I know that it's time to leave a job? And so I need people to understand, right? So we all know that it is not the kind of job where you can only bring a part of you onto your shift, right? We have to be on mentally, physically, emotionally. You have to be on in order to do your job well, and that's because somebody is depending on you to really keep them alive while they're in your care. If you're in education, it's just as stressful because with the cost of nursing education, someone's depending on you to bring your best into the classroom because they're making a huge sacrifice to be there. Same thing if you're if you're in a leadership role, a formal leadership role. I think people really underestimate how stressful nursing is, and we think it's cute in helping people. Not us, but people outside of nursing think, oh, it's so great, you help people. We do more than help people. We help them stay alive, we help them get better. It's more than just helping people. And so when a nurse gets to a point where he or she feels that I need to leave, that usually triggers something. So know that once you're asking that question, you're already disengaged. You've already reached a point where you're like, I can't do this anymore and I need to go. Now, before providing a recommendation about when is a good time to leave, I always ask, do you feel that it's safe to practice? Do you feel like you are practicing in a safe way? Is there an organizational wide expectation that you will engage in unethical practices, that you will put patients' lives in danger, or that you will put your own life and safety in danger? If you say yes to any of that, then I say run. Okay, I'll share my own, I call it my 90-day story. If you've ever been to one of my talks, you've probably heard this story before. So in a city that will remain nameless, I applied and got hired for a job in a facility, in a for-profit hospital. And I did night shifts, and I did this job. You go through that 90-day probationary period. Well, probationary periods work both ways. Not only is the organization assessing you, you're also assessing the organization, or at least you should be. So day 88 comes for my shift, and I pull into the parking lot, and I am struggling to go in. I am struggling to go in. So day 88, I get through my shift. Day 89 comes because it was 7P to 7A. Day 89 comes, and I asked to meet with the nurse manager. She comes into her office, and I asked to meet with her. And she goes, sure, so she's all excited. She's sitting there thinking I'm going to be able to tell her that this is a great experience and I'm so happy for this opportunity. I start off thanking her for the opportunity, and then I tell her, I'm so sorry, but I can't work here. I can't. I said, the culture here facilitates very unsafe practice, and I feel like I'm going to lose my license if I stay here. Now, I don't care what anybody outside of nursing says. I don't care what prejudice people have against nursing. I can tell you as a nurse, as an educator, is we don't give out those degrees and we don't give out those licenses like candy. And I had reached a point where I looked day 88 and I said, I can't stay here. I'm gonna lose this license that I worked so hard for. And I walked away. A year later, I ran into the same manager. About 1 to 2 years later, no, a year later, I ran into the same manager. She left too. for the same reason that I left. So if you're in that kind of environment, you don't owe anybody any explanation. Protect your license, protect yourselves, and leave. That's what I would do. That's what I have done. So once we know that you're safe, I need for you to identify that point of when did your why die, okay? And what I mean by that is usually there's something, an incident, an experience, an event, something that triggered you being able to say, you know what? I can't do this anymore, or I won't do this anymore. I want you to think back to that moment, because that's going to give you a clue as to what it is that you may be wrestling with and why you're even entertaining leaving at this point, okay? Then after you do that, begin to think about, is it an organizational fit problem? Is it something going on with unit or department dynamics? Is it something going on with you and a very specific group of people? Identify that, because I'll tell you, one of the benefits of health systems is you don't necessarily have to leave the entire health system. You can simply do a lateral move or transfer to a different member organization of the health system and experience a lot more gratification, right? Ideally, health systems think that all of their facilities are the same, but honestly, it depends on whoever is leading each specific unit of the organization that has the greatest impact on the identity. I had a terrible nurse manager, but a great CEO. It may not be appropriate for you to leave the whole organization. Maybe you need to just go find a job in a different unit, a different department, or go to a different facility altogether. Now, once you've identified your options, my next question is, did you get everything that you could have gotten out of this experience? I can tell you from experience, there are times when I let my emotions and my pride get the best of me, and I sold myself short of opportunities. And I look back and I think, man, if I had just stuck that out for one more year, if I had just, dealt with it and ignored the foolishness for 2 more years, where would my career have gone? What opportunities would have opened up for me? So I always ask, especially my mentees, especially my younger nurses, did you get everything that you wanted to get out of that experience before you move on? If the answer is no, then think about how you can do that and work within the confines of whatever is frustrating you. All right, so once you figured out when did your why die, once you figure out, when am I getting the most out of this experience, now it's time to develop your exit strategy. First and foremost, the old adage remains true. You never want to leave on a bad note from an organization. You still want to leave on a good note, right? Your exit strategy, an ideal exit strategy is 1 to 2 years, if you can handle it. If you can't, do a minimum of 6 months. Why do I encourage all of my clients to have an exit strategy? You need a plan. If you jump from one bad situation, you're likely to jump into another bad situation and end up in the same boat, in the same position a year from now. Working is sort of like a relationship, especially with nursing. When you have your blinders on and you're in pain and you're tired and you want out, if you jump into another relationship, right, you're going to end up with the same jerk that you were with the first time. Employment is no different. So for nurses, I really like when you have a 1 to 2 year exit strategy. That's where you literally plan out every single month what you're going to do, and you figure out your finances. And I always recommend everyone to give yourself at least 2 to 4 weeks cushion of not working, of not doing anything, to heal. Especially if you're leaving a toxic work environment. Because if you leave one place tired, go to the new place tired, I promise you, you will be in the same predicament a year later. So sit down, develop your exit strategy, go through the tips that I just gave you, and then decide how you're going to leave and how you're going to leave well.